everybody. If I can get your attention, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for coming out. I think you're really going to enjoy this session today. Just a couple of real quick announcements. I'll get those out of the way first so that when we're finished, you can ask questions to Avon. But everybody knows what tomorrow is, right? I hope so. A couple heads nodding. Tomorrow is the career fair. It's going to be over in the Rotunda, so definitely want all of you to come out and come to that if possible. Even if you're not specifically looking for a job right now, I guarantee the employers want to meet you and speak with you, so try to make it out to that if you can. On Friday, we'll have another seminar in here at noon, and as you all know, if you've been reading the emails, we've been giving out a lot of prizes this week, so definitely keep your eye on your email after this session to see if you win anything. But without further ado, I want to introduce our guest today. Avon Cobourne Jr. is one of 5 children. He was born and raised in Camden, New Jersey. He's a stellar student athlete, and he received an athletic scholarship to come to WVU. And I believe you're still the all-time leading rusher. Is that right? Okay, so he's he was pretty good. He was pretty good. And if you'll remember the old Big East Conference, I believe you're all-time leading in Big East Conference as well. So he's a very accomplished student athlete. In 2003, he got his bachelor's degree in marketing and minored in communications at WVU, and he was recently inducted into the WVU Sports Hall of Fame. And after his success there, he went on to play in the NFL for the Detroit Lions, and did a lot of community outreach when he was in Detroit. Raised some awareness for childhood illnesses and did some other things, so I'm sure he'll share a little bit about that today. Then he went on to play and coach in the CFL, that's the Canadian Football League. He was the Grey Cup MVP, so that's sort of like our Super Bowl MVP. It's a big deal there. So, after coaching, he had the opportunity to join the YMCA about 2 years ago, right here in Charleston. And he's now the branch director of the downtown Charleston YMCA. So a lot of you have already met Avon. He has been here before, but definitely want to interact with him, ask him questions. This is a great time to meet somebody who's a leader not only in this community, but really just across the country when it comes to community building. So with that, give a big hand to our guest, Avon Cobourne Jr.
I appreciate it. And I didn't get a chance to meet everybody in here, but I tried to come and meet most of you guys. I know we have some soccer players here. We have some water polo guys back there. We have a couple students over here for nursing. Did get in some baseball players as well. Didn't get a chance to meet all of you guys, but I mean, hopefully by the end of this, I will get a chance to meet all of you. And I know some of you may have to leave during this. If you do, I will call you out for walking out of here. I'm just playing. But I know you guys, some of you will have to leave for class, and that's okay as well. But you know, my topic today is something that's near and dear to my heart because you know, being a student athlete and everything that he said, you know, I got $5 for it. I appreciate it. Everything that he said was absolutely true. But one of the things that, you know, as I played, I didn't necessarily have all the tools that I needed to kind of adjust and adapt and go into different directions. You know, I played in NFL. I went to the CFL, which is the Canadian Football League, and I played up there for about 7 years. So my total, you know, professional playing was about 10 years. Now, most people, they don't get an opportunity to play past 3 or 4, especially in football. But I was blessed. I mean, I had some great players around me that, you know, took a lot of pressure off of me and gave me an opportunity to do some great things. And it took a lot of hard work. I mean, if you're in here, you're an athlete in school in general, there's a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work that you don't necessarily even know that you're doing, but you're putting in that work to get it done. So as I get into my presentation, now I did want to talk to you guys about you know, building communities and building relationships. So the biggest thing that, you know, when you do this is why. Why do you want to do this? Why would you want to do this? Oh, and before I go any further, my wife just walked in. This is kind of, yeah, She came to watch and see what I was doing because I've been out late for the last couple of nights, and she's like, "What are you doing? Where you been at?" So this is why I'm putting together this presentation. But when I trying to go. So it's why. So why? When you get into get into nonprofits, which is where I am now. I work for the YMCA right now, and when you get into these type of businesses, it has to be a why. Like, why are you doing it? Why are you? Because 9 times out of 10, when you get into that industry, it's not necessarily always about the money. It's because there's a lot of other things that come into play, and you really have to have a heart for people. So when I got to the YMCA, it was a blessing for me because I grew up in an area where there was no YMCAs, where there was nobody taking care of anybody in our community. So for me, being an athlete and having some sense of status, I wanted to be able to use that status to give back to people. So what I always wanted to do was go and be around kids and be around individuals that wanted to help other people. So my why when I actually left, because I was actually coaching before I came to the YMCA, and I left coaching because I wanted to make an impact in my community. I was in Canada, and I tried to get a job in the U.S. and it didn't happen. So, but I wanted to get out of Canada and come back to my. And if there's any Canadians in here, I love Canada. I just wanted to be in my communities and doing things here in this area. But why? My why I got into this industry was I really wanted to help people. There were so many kids growing up that didn't have the same advantages that I had. I mean, I was blessed with a talent where it was able to get me out of places and give me breaks on things from time to time. Most people didn't have that. So what I wanted to do was make sure that I could actually use my talents for other people, and it's been working out pretty well. So I guess what I wanted to do was talk about some of the best practices, and these are kind of like models that we use from time to time to develop. And what I found the best one was the asset-based model. So this asset-based model was really built around communities, organizations, but the people really, I mean, the communities let the people do all the work. Because sometimes when an organization comes in, they want to do everything. So that kind of gets into, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So the community leaders and the community organizations, they all work together to form this model. And I think, to me, this is the best model. This is kind of how I develop all of my, when I do a program in the cities, this is the model I use. So there's another model called the needs-based model. This is the model where people want to fix problems. So they go into a community and then they say, well, this is what you need, not necessarily getting information from those people. They just go and say, okay, this is broke, we're going to fix it. They're not really getting input that they need. And then I guess the last one is a rights-based model, and fixing problems outside the organizations and using inside groups. So the organizations are not necessarily from the community. They come in and they use outside organizations, but then they come in and they use the people inside. So that one works well. But what I'm going to focus on is for this is the asset-based model. So what we have here is a cup, and on the left side, that cup is what we need. And this is kind of the model where people come in and they're not necessarily worried about the people in there. They're just worried about fixing that problem. And what we want to do is really focus on the people that's in the community. So that's more of the, what we already have. So we try to use the people in the community to make sure that, one, we're understanding what the problems are, because you can't go into a community and try to get them to be a better community, but using all outside information. That doesn't work at all. That doesn't work, because now people are saying, you're coming in here and you don't know what my problems are. All you want to do is just come in and really use our resources and then leave. So we want to focus on, you know, the people. And the way that we do that mostly is taking, and I think there's a this model here. So let me go, I can see that. So what this model is really it's like a structure. So you'll take the local organizations, and then you'll take the community associations, and then you'll take the individuals. So basically what that means is all the organizations that are locally inside, they're going to use those models, and they kind of try to take a step back, because what the organizations or what the communities don't want is in respect, they don't want the YMCA is just coming in and running their programs. They're like, no, we love the YMCA, but what we want the YMCA to do is see what we want and then move it, then get out the way, really, and let the groups that are in those organizations or in that community run those programs. But sometimes you got to have that name brand organization to come in and kind of give some structure, bring some money, but they don't necessarily want just that organization running anything. They want, okay, look, and this is like just an example of what we had. So last year I had a program where we did a summer program, and I was like, well, how are we going to run this program? And what I found was, I don't know if you guys know or heard of a guy named Kocher Jr. He was like an all-star basketball player in the area. So what I said was, look, let me go find a guy in the community that's actually doing something like this, and bring my organization and my skills that I have to kind of boost what he's doing. And that's kind of the asset-based model, is using the assets that they have in the community, and then bring in, you know, my organization, which, you know, we're able to do a lot bigger things on a bigger scale because of, you know, our brand that we had. So we took what he had in the community and just enhanced it, and just took it to a whole nother level, which I thought it turned out to be a great program. So I guess some of the things that, you know, that has to be implemented or used are, you know, everyone has a gift in the community. So in my example I gave, Kocher Jr., his gift was, he was a star athlete, and he was well respected in the community. So one of the things that he was able to do was organize. He was able to organize a bunch of kids to come and see what we had going on. And sometimes that's the hardest part of getting the people involved in the community. So again, the best way to do it, if you are trying to get into that sector, get into that arena, is get those kids and get that community leader that already has something going on. Because when you try to go into a community and try to get them to just do what you want them to do, it's not necessarily going to work, because that's one, you don't know what they want to do. That's the first thing. And we'll kind of get into that. So you want to take those community, you want to take everybody with their gifts and use their gifts. I mean, we have soccer players, and it's great that it's in sports, because thinking about, I'm a football player, so my gift was really running the football, catching the football, blocking, and those things. Quarterback, his gift was throwing the football, you know, being able to, you know, be taller than I am so he can see over the line of scrimmage. And, you know, we go to soccer, everybody, you have a goalie, you have, you know, I don't know, but you know, what my example was saying is that, you know, everybody has their gifts and everybody has their strengths. So you want to build on those strengths as opposed to, you know, just trying to do everything yourself, because when you do that, you burn yourself out. You know, you lose your friends, you lose your family, because you're trying to do too much. So that's one of them. The other one is relationship building in the community. And this is, I'm gonna hit on this a little bit later, but you want to make sure that, again, when you're in the community, it's not necessarily in this model. You want to make sure that you are talking to people and not talking at people. Does that make sense? So, because when you're talking to people, now they feel like, they feel like they're a part of it, as opposed to talking at people. Now, you know, it's kind of sometimes a player-coach relationship. Sometimes the coach don't want to hear what you got to say. And sometimes the coach is like, okay, what do Sometimes he don't want to hear what you got to say because we have a plan. We've been putting this plan together. Now I just need you to execute the plan. So with those relationships, you got to make sure that the communication, especially going into community where you're not from, because I'm not from here. I'm from New Jersey, but obviously, a lot of people know of me in this area because of what I've done at WVU. So it gives me a little bit of, brand recognition. And that's one of the things that I also wanted to mention. Use all of your resources. When you're going into a community and you want to help and you want to make sure, you want to make an impact on people, you got to use everything you have. It's funny because I never introduce myself as Avon Cobourne because when I do that, people be like, oh, can I take some pictures? No, only when I want something, that's when I use my name. So if I'm talking to somebody and you're standing next to me and I'm like, how you doing? I'm Avon. That means, I don't want you to know anything about me. But when I say Avon Cobourne, then, it kind of gets people's light bulbs flashing. So at those moments, use everything that you have. Use them because you never know how that's going to help you get what you want on that end result. So citizens at the center. And that's kind of what, using those strengths, and kind of going back to using those strengths. So when you have the citizens, that's the people should be the ones that's really doing all the work. Making sure that it's something that they want. Because when you're trying to build something, when you're trying to be, especially outside organizations, when you're an outside organization and you're not necessarily in the community working for in the community organization, because the YMCA is somewhat considered outside the organization, outside the community, because it's a national brand. It's not. I'm trying to think of some local organizations. So step by step is really something that will be inside. It's not nationwide. It's actually in the community. So when you're not, you got to make sure you get people that are in the community and make them. We called the program the Cookie Miller 2nd Avenue Basketball League. We could have called it the Avon Cobourne Basketball League, but one, I don't do basketball, and two, he's already in the community. I wanted to highlight him to make sure that we can continue to do what he was doing and enhance it. So now he's going to get the buy-in that he wanted, and also now the YMCA is obviously we got to get something out of it. We're going to get back in the community, because before I came to the YMCA, the YMCA wasn't in the black communities. They wouldn't consider themselves to be, well, not them. The black community wouldn't consider the YMCA in the community because if you guys ever been to it, so we have two of them now. There's one downtown and there's one on Greenbrier, which they call the Y in the Sky or the Y on the Hill. So we just got the one downtown, but the one on the hill, they said they just didn't feel a part of it, didn't have access to it. So what my job was at the YMCA was to, one, integrate the communities and make sure that everybody feels like they can benefit from what we have. So again, when you do go into these communities, and I'm stressing this because you can't take your business, because we're all here, we're probably going to all be business leaders in some organization, and we all want to help. I'm pretty sure that we want to make sure that when we go into these communities, we can't take our brand or our name as far as the business that we in. We got to use the people inside of them because again, they know those people, they trust those people a lot more, and it also gives them a sense of security because they know these are the guys I've been working with. I trust these guys. So, leaders involve others, and when you have a good leader that's in the community, somebody that is always, his brand is good, her brand is good, where she can go into any organization and they're like, well, we know her, we know him, they do great work in the community. You want to take those leaders and have them really involve everybody else. And again, I'm going to bring my little bit, he's going to bring his whole lot, but what I'm going to do is use more of him than me. And I'll allow him to use his leadership because one of the things that he was responsible for, he meaning Cookie, in this program that we had, he was responsible for getting the people. And you guys, if you ever get into the nonprofit sector, you're going to understand that's the hardest thing, because you can have a great program, You can have, you know, tons of money being poured into the program. But if you don't have the people to come and benefit from it, the program is useless. So, you know, his responsibility really was to get the people to the program and let them see it. And the premise around this program was it wasn't just going to be basketball. We wanted to make this program more of a community and learning program. So basketball, we had swimming involved in it with YMCA. We had a leadership program where we brought different local leaders into the organization. So we had like J.C. Penney's. We had the fire department. I mean, if you guys have never played with a fire hose, that was probably the best thing I've ever done. Because I mean, it sprays so many different ways you had no idea. But you had the kids trying on the uniform. You had the sheriffs come out with the dogs. So we wanted to make it a lot bigger than just a basketball event. So that's kind of one of the things that I brought to the table, was making it not just about football, because I mean not just about basketball. Because my experience was, when you just focus on athletics, you kind of miss that other portion of it. And you know, being at a big school, you don't necessarily get an opportunity to do anything else but whatever that sport is. But I know these guys here, Travis and what is the 80's name? Yeah, Stevens. She always gives you guys access to different opportunities, and that's a blessing in disguise. I mean, they don't make money to give y'all this right here. They make money to as far as WVU, to win football games, to win basketball games, to win soccer games. So this is absolutely amazing. So, you know, people care. You know, challenging notions of empathy, and it's hard. It's hard to really listen to somebody else's, because you know in your mind what you want. And I had to struggle. I struggled with that with the program that we implemented, because you know, he was like, you know, I don't know if people are going to, I don't know if they're going to want to do this. And I'm like, for me, it's not an option. And it's hard for me to empathize with someone that's not necessarily wanting to do anything besides just play basketball. Like, we need more than that. We need to make sure we're not just thinking about sports with that event. We had to make sure that you had these kids thinking, okay, look, I can be a firefighter, I can be a police officer, I can be this, I can be that. But sports was going to be that catalyst to get you to there, and that's what really got him to the YMCA, was the program. But then we just threw everything else on top of it. But you know, it was one of those things that I had to humble myself to say, look, we're not just gonna you know, do this. And I had to figure out what he was saying on why he didn't think it was going to work. But you know, most of us are athletes, and if we're not athletes, we're determined in our career field. We're not trying to see anything outside of what the goal is, and whether it's scoring a goal, scoring a touchdown, making a block. You know, our focus is definitely on winning. So when he wasn't trying to win when I was trying to win, and we kind of had a friction. So that's one of the things that we especially as athletes, we struggle with being empathetic with people, because we want to win. I mean, we want to win sometimes at all costs. So it really puts us in a position to say, okay, let's take ourselves out of it and put more of, you know, bring somebody else in, because you know, the way I think is not always the way everybody else thinks. So that actually, you know, humbled me. And again, it comes back to listening. You know, listening is probably the hardest thing for me sometimes. I mean, I got my bride back there, and you asked her, I never hear anything that she says. But it's hard, because again, we're focused on the results, we're focused on winning, we're focused on, you know, achieving that goal. But in order for us to achieve a goal in another community, we have to listen to the community, because they are the ones, they're going to tell you what they want. And if you go in again and try to just, you know, force something onto this community and they don't want it, one, they probably they're not going to show up, and two, you know, you're going to lose all your funding, because you know, nobody wants this program, and they're going to look at your numbers and say, well, nobody's showing up. So you got to make sure that, you know, when you implement, or when you're in the community, you got to listen to these people. You have to listen to the community. And I don't know if anybody wants to get into that arena, social work and you know, community development, anything like that. The people are really going to tell you everything that they want, and it's just our job to listen and just implement what they're saying. It's tough though, because we got our mind made up on what the community needs, and what we think the community needs is not what the community, you know, actually wants. So inside out organization. So local community members are in control, and that's kind of it goes back to it. You want to make sure that our organization is just the umbrella, and we got to take a step back. We got to take a step back and allow the community to kind of not necessarily police itself, but we got to make sure that the community is in control of the program to an extent. I mean, you always got to bring in the way that you do things, but the community has to feel like they are in control, because they're not going to show up, and that's important. In any nonprofit organization, having and making sure that you got people there is the most important thing. And institution serves the community as opposed to the other way around. So again, we got to make sure as we're building a program, as we're building, you know, integrating ourselves into that community, we have to make sure that we take a step back. We meaning the big organizations, the YMCA, the Red Cross, or the United Way. You know, you got to take a step back and see, you know, what it is that they're doing, help them implement it, but then allow them to do it the way that they want to do it, to make sure that it works. Because again, if every time that we try to do something, they always push back on us. No, we don't do it this way. And I don't know how many people here are from Appalachia. That's how you say it, right? Yeah. So the Appalachian culture it's a very tough culture, because they think a certain way. I mean, the same as in New Jersey. We think a certain way. We do things a certain way. You know, it's just tough to really, if you're not from here, to kind of integrate into a different environment. But the easiest way to do it is to take a step back and allow those community members to take the lead on that. So now we're going to transition into building relationships, and this is something that is not necessarily always easy to do, because when you come into an organization and I was kind of doing it, you know, as you guys were coming in, I was trying to get you guys to see who I was, you know, kind of go around and talk to you guys and to kind of, I guess, work the room. And it's important, because as you are new to an environment and people don't know who you are, they're going to tune you out. They're not going to give you the information that you want to get out of it. So it's really about, in everything that we do. I mean, all you ladies and gentlemen here are teammates, or students together. I really wish, if there's one thing I can go back and do, is really meet everybody that came into college with me, because all these people here are going to be the people that are the next leaders in different you know, genres. Whether it's, you know, whatever it is that you guys plan to do, the leaders are in this room. So you have to make sure that, you know, you get people to know you, like you, and trust you. And that's really the biggest way to build relationships, is really to get people to know you, to like you, and to trust you. And to know you, you got to be visible. So coming to these events, you know, you guys, me, I've been here a couple of times. I've spoke for the football team. We had a cornhole tournament out there. You know, I try to get my face out as much as I possibly can, because I want people to know me. I want to be visible. I want people to say, okay, everybody knows who Avon is, but nobody actually knows who Avon is. So being visible is extremely, extremely important, because it just allows people to it gives you one step towards getting that relationship going. Because the more places you see somebody at, you go to different you know, sporting events, you go to different parties, you go to different places to eat, and let's just say you go to the same place to eat every day or every week. Now you're going to get to know that person. Now that person's looking at you as a friend now. Now the relationship is built. Now, let's just say you have a business, you want to call on them for something. Now you can call on them, because now they know you. And so it really comes down to who you are. And they won't know who you are unless you actually are at places that they are at. So for me, and me building relationships is in the community. So whenever there's a community event, I try to be there. Whenever there's a block party or something, I try to be there because I want people to get to know, I want them to see me. I want them to see my face. I want them to see, Avon everywhere. Okay, so when they see me, they see the YMCA. They're like, oh, Avon's everywhere. Oh, the YMCA is everywhere. Even though the YMCA isn't everywhere, it's just me. But I'm representing that organization. So, it's really getting people to know who you are. And then, why should they care? Why should they care? So now, and I know most of you have, I don't know if you ever heard of it or not, but, there's a big question on everybody's forehead is, what can you do for me? That's really what everybody is thinking. Even though we want to help people, is really what can you do for me? So that's why, when you talk to somebody and you're visible and people are seeing you, now they're saying, okay, well, this guy can do this, or this girl can do this, or this person or this organization can do this for who we are. So that's important. So and consistency, being for people to know you, you have to be consistent. So you have to show up early and often. And as an example, so when I first started playing ball in Canada, I was a rookie, but I played in the NFL. But they still considered me a rookie. And to make a team in Canada, it was really hard as a rookie because you're only allowed like you gotta have 7 Canadians and you gotta have, so it's 12 people on the field, but there always have to be 7 Canadians. And there aren't very many backup running backs in the CFL because you have to, it's just a ratio. They'll put a linebacker or something. So what I had to do was show up early and often. So every time I was on the field, I made a play. And I made sure I made the play. When I made the play, I'm a marketing major, so every time I made the play, I made sure that they knew I made the play. Because that was me. So I'm showing up, I'm just being consistent. I'm being consistent every chance I get. When they saw me or when I was on the field, I showed up. So then you gotta show up again. And then you gotta show up again. Because if you for people to really know you, you got to be consistent. You got to show up as often as possible. Because what that does, again, it kind of brings down walls. Because we all come in here with our own walls up, and our job as community development leaders is to get people to bring those walls down to give us money. Because everybody's got their hand out in this industry. Everybody's trying to get money. Everybody's pulling from the same people. So how or why would they give us money? Because there's a lot of organizations out there. And what I do, I email early and often, I call them early and often, I show up at their office early and often. The events that they at, I attend the same events because I want them to see that we are the same people. We want to do the same thing. So you have to be consistent and for people to really get to know who you really are. And for people to like you. Now, it's tough to get people to like you because one, if they don't know you, they're not really going to give you a chance to like you. So some of that is your parents. Some of that is your parents. And my wife, she doesn't like that I put suits on every day. I work at the YMCA. She's like, why do you do that? I said, because I want people to see me in a certain light. Because only people see me as a football player. So I'm like, well, let me dress professional every day so people can see me in a different light. So I want to make sure that people are seeing who I am and who I want them to see. So to get them to like me, I want to be like them. And I want to provide value to these people. So when I go to these organizations or when I go in front of these young kids, I want to provide value. And a lot of my value when I go talk to kids and go into these organizations is a lot of what I've already done. I've already put in a whole lot of work for people to say, I might like this guy. Like Susan came in, she left already, but she was like, she came in and said, Avon, you know what, you were a great football player. She didn't know me from Adam, but she knew of me. So she wants to take a picture with me, and I didn't even know Miss Susan. I'm like, well, okay. You know what I mean? Because of the work I put in. So now, for me and for you guys, if you decide to get into this arena, use that credibility that you have with your sports, because those sports, people, that unites people. Sports unites people. It brings people together. And it gives them the opportunity to say, look, oh, I already know this guy. Oh, I like him because of the way he worked on the field, or the way, way she did it on the court. So use those things that, again, it's very slim. Business is tough. There aren't a lot of jobs in a lot of different places, because everybody's fighting for the same ones. So you got to use everything that you have to get them to open their minds and say, oh, hold on, he's just like me, she's just like me. So make sure you do that. What are you doing? To get people to like you. What are you doing? What are you doing to provide value to these people? And what do I do most of the time is, again, there's a lot of WVU fans. I bring 9 times out of 10 I got a picture, a signed autographed picture, to saying, okay, well, yeah, I'm the guy you think I am. You like me, and I bring them something that gives them value. Is sometimes a photographed picture of Avon Cobourne. It is what it is. You got to use what you have, ladies and gentlemen. And the programs that we do bring, kind of getting back into programming. The programs that we do bring, they have to bring value to the people that you are trying to get money from, that you're trying to get into the program, that you're trying to get to come into your organization and work for you. They have to have value to the people that you are trying to serve. So that is one of the biggest things that we need to understand, is that people aren't looking at us to say, okay, what do you have? They're looking at, what can you do for me? So you got to give these people value, especially if you're asking for money. It can't be about what the YMCA does. It's about what the community is doing and how we can actually be a benefit for that community. And how are you helping? So and I guess experience is actually one of the ways that we kind of break down doors to organizations to get money, is because we've already been doing it for a while. So when you do it and you do it and you do it, that kind of moves things out the way to say, okay, yeah, we want to give our money to YMCA. We want to hire this person. We want to bring, because you guys have been on soccer team, baseball team, they know you have a work ethic. They know you've already had things that's inside of you that a lot of other people don't have. If you're going to nursing school, they know that you've been studying. Because me being an athlete, I didn't have time to be in nursing school or to do anything like that, because I was on the field 90% of the time. And most of you, ladies and gentlemen, are the same way. And listening. So, and this is one of the key things that I've learned. And I learned this late in my career. So if you guys have never heard this is probably something that you should use often, because people don't know how much you know, or don't care how much you know, until they know how much you care. Especially when it comes to the community, and you're trying to build a relationship with somebody that you don't know. They don't care what you know, unless they can actually see or physically see that you care about. And the example that I always like to use is that a baby doesn't really know what you're saying, because it's a baby. A young man had the baby in here, and the baby could have been crying, and we could have been like, okay, stop crying. But then if you show that baby love and give that baby the attention that the baby needs, now they're looking at, now the baby's like, oh, okay, now I can transition into loving on my daddy again, because now she was uncomfortable. So you just got to understand that people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. That's probably one of the biggest. If you take anything out of here, that's one of the things you need to take. People don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care about. I'm pretty sure Coach loves on you all the time, but then he gets hard on you, because if he's never loving on you, him being hard on you is going to divide. So what one of my coaches always would say is, you're putting money in the bank. You're putting money in the bank. And when I do something wrong, he's going to take that money back from me. But he knows I'm building value with him. So I'm building value with him. I'm giving him what he needs. So when I mess up, he's like, okay, now he can be hard on me. But I know he knows, or I know that he cares about me because of what I've been doing and what he's been giving me from what I've been doing. So what we need to understand is that that's super important, ladies and gentlemen, that people do not care. They do not care what you know. They care how much you care about them. So remember that. And yeah, it's kind of going on to my, yeah, because if people don't feel like you, I kind of jumped the gun on that. So, and one of the things that I always tell my boys is that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you got to listen twice as much as you talk. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but people always like to hear their own voice. Especially me. I talk all the time, and I like to hear, but I don't listen as much as I talk. But I'm learning. But one of the things we got to understand is that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, because we got to listen to what people are saying, and then as we listen, now we can kind of respond accordingly. But we got to make sure we take a step back and allow the people that's talking to do what they need to do. And so this is trust. I don't know what happened to the other one. I think I erased it when I was trying to fix it. So the last one is trust. So people trust facts, even if they're not facts that you really believe in, but if they're factual information, people trust facts. So what we need to do is as we're building, as we're getting people to know us, getting people to like us. Now we got to now as we transition into that, we got to get people to understand, trust, is something that Coach probably always says. Trust is not given; it's earned, and we build up trust by what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I always had a problem with some of my players when I coached in Canada. They would always come to me and say, Coach, this is not the league. I don't have to do it right now. I'm not in the NFL. This is not the NFL. Well, if you don't think about it now where you are, you'll never get to where you want to go. So if you don't start implementing those same principles that you're going to use when you get to the NFL or when you want to get to the highest level, you're never going to get to them now. You're never going to. So that always bothered me, because now I can't trust this person because he's not going to do what he's supposed to do right now. He's going to wait to do it later, and that never happens. I promise you. I've been that person too. They said, I'm gonna do it later, and it never gets done. So, people trust facts, and facts, is really what you've done. Not what you said, but what have you actually done. If in my position when I played football, I was a running back. So my coach, he would always say, I need you to run to the football. I need you to run to the football even when you don't have the ball. And what that was is, and I was telling somebody earlier today, I wasn't even the fastest guy. I wasn't the fastest running back we had. I probably was the slowest running back we had. But what I did was I built up a trust with my coach, because everything he asked me to do, I did. And what that allowed me to do was compete with somebody that ran a 4.3. And I was a 4.5, 4.6 guy. And I was able to compete with that guy because he didn't do everything that the coach asked him to do. He didn't build that trust the way I did, because I said, well, look, if that's all he wants me to do, it's going to give me an opportunity to play. I could do that. I'd be a little bit more tired, but what it allowed me to do was say, okay, he's got a lot more money in the bank than you. You can run a 4.3, you can be the fastest person on the team, but if you're not doing what I ask you to do, I can't trust you to put you out there in front of if you're not making those blocks, I can't trust you to protect my quarterback, who was, really probably the biggest person on the football team, the most important person. So, who? And that kind of goes along with, the trust aspect of, the facts. Like when you've actually done it, now they're looking at you like, okay, well, how many times have you done it? Who have you done it with? Why are you continue to do it? So, it's one of those things you have to put into that whole mind frame of being, a trustworthy person and building that trust. And honesty. I mean, sometimes you got to find what that honesty is for that person at times too, because you can't always be you for them. And what I mean by that is, I'm an honest person. I'm brutally honest, which is not always a good thing for people that don't like to hear the truth all the time. So I got to kind of dummy down my truth and my honesty so that they can understand what it is that I'm talking about. Because once you start, it feels like insults when they're coming at you and you tell them, well, you're not as good as you think you are. And nobody wants to hear that, because everybody thinks they're the best at what they are, especially when it comes to, you know, trying to develop a relationship. It's tough to hear the truth sometimes. I really have to learn to not be as brutally honest as I am with some people, because they don't get the truth the way that they don't like the truth the way I give it out. So, but honesty is important. Honesty is important to building that trust so that you can actually, you know, cultivate that relationship the way you want to cultivate. And then credibility. You know, it's, you know, really, you know, the credibility comes with trust, because the more you show up, the more you do what you're supposed to do, the more you allow, you know, the people around you to see what you're doing the right way, you know, that credibility comes. And once you have that credibility, now you pretty much, the walls are down, people are writing you checks, you know, people are coming into your organization that are building, you know, helping you build the business the way you want to build it. So, is there any questions you guys have for me?
I'll get you started. Okay. Let them think for a second about some questions. I'll ask you one. So it's not easy building these community relationships. And look, another place I heard you speak at the Ambux meeting a few months ago is you talked about some of those challenges. How do you work with other organizations in the community? Like, they just built that new complex over at Shawnee Park. And, these are all things that sort of relate to what you do at the YMCA, and there's other organizations, of course. So how do you work with them to build strong communities?
That's a great question, Travis. And one of the things that we complement. We don't, and what I always try to do with different organizations is see how we complement them, as opposed to compete with them. And one of the things that we always run into is that, well, with the YMCA, they look at us as a gym. They don't see that we always have children's programs. They don't see that we try to complement them. So down at Shawnee, you know, they have a pool, they have fields. So what we do, we actually train lifeguards. So we try to figure out, okay, well, how can we complement what you guys are doing? You guys need lifeguards. We actually train lifeguards. You send your lifeguard, we'll send you lifeguards, and then what happens is, once we're building those relationships, now, let's just say we want to run a program out at Shawnee Park, which is, I mean, have you guys been to Shawnee Park? You guys seen it? So Shawnee Park is probably it's a huge, like, complex that they made. They got about 6 baseball fields. They have about 8 soccer fields that they built out there. And, I mean, they have a pool as well. So what we try to do is complement them, so that as people don't think that we are doing the same thing that they're doing. We want to help them. We want to give them value. And obviously, when we want to use the fields for a program that we have, now that we gave them value, we complemented some of the things that they've done. Now we can actually go in and use their fields when we want, because of what we can provide for them. And it all goes into, again, what can you do for me? Everybody's asking, okay, well, you know, you want this, well, what can you do for me? What am I getting out of it? So, well, we say, look, we'll train your lifeguards. We'll train them. We'll do it for free sometimes, so that we can, you know, get the things that we want. Any other questions?
You don't have anything about, I mean, Avon's very humble. He's met a lot of people over time. He's been able to make that transition between student athlete to a community leader. I mean, he's done a great job with it. You all will be in that same position. So what, do you have any questions about the leadership? I mean, these things that he's encountered.
Any questions about? Yeah, I mean, about what we talked about. I mean, as far as the building communities. Any questions about, you know, athletics? Any ways to get take extra reps off on coach?
Avon, how can you help these college students
That's a great question. And one of the things that someone actually called me a while back and said, my son wants to he wants to get into the community, and the easiest way for someone to get into the community is really to volunteer. Nobody likes to volunteer because there's no money behind it, but what that does is it does exactly what he said, was get you in the door, get your foot in the door to where, and again, what he asked me was, you know, he wants to get involved in the community, and I said, well, what does he like to do? And we're soccer players, baseball players, we have all types of programs where, you know, you can actually do what you love to do, and now it gets you in the community. I mean, gets you in the door. So now, as you're volunteering for those different opportunities, what happens is when a job comes up, or when as an opportunity comes up, they're like, well, he's already in here, she's already in here. Well, let me see if they're interested. And that was one of the things that I didn't necessarily understand early either, because, you know, I wanted to make money. But when you give something, something always comes back to you in return. So one of the key things, or key ways that you can kind of get involved in, even if it's not in the YMCA, any organization that you want to get into, if it's an accounting firm or if it's a law firm, go volunteer some of your time, because that's probably one of the most important things that we have is our time. So when somebody sees that you're giving time for free, they're going to see, okay, well, you know, let me see how I can help them in the long run. Yeah.
How did you deal with like teammates or coaches that made it extra difficult to build relationships with them?
That's great. So it really didn't happen for me until I got into the Canadian Football League. So not the end of my career, but my last couple of years. And the question was, how did you deal with, you know, difficult people? And what I did was I just loved on them. It's hard to be mad at me when I'm bringing my coach donuts and coffee. Seriously, you know, they can be mad all they want, but if you, I mean, it's called sucking up, and you know they feel like you feel like they don't like you, but it's not necessarily you they don't like. It's something that you've done, or maybe you're not giving the effort that. First thing I will look at is myself to say, okay, what am I not doing right? But then, you know, once I realize or figure out what it is, I would definitely start, you know, loving on them, you know, doing the things that I'm supposed to do, doing everything they ask me to do. That's the first thing, you know, because when I transitioned, so I went from a coach who's been at WVU for 20 years. He retired. Then there was a brand new coach that came in. So I'm already solidified as a starter, but everything is brand new now. So now everybody's getting up, and they're supposed to. Everybody gets an opportunity to work again. You know what I mean? Everything is even, equal, no seniority or nothing. I mean, obviously I had it, and if you're an upperclassman, you're going to have some of it. But what I did was I did everything he asked me to do, like everything. When he said, you know, be here at 5:30, I was there early. I mean, I did everything he asked me to do, so there wasn't a way that he couldn't like me. Because now I'm like, well, how can you not like somebody doing everything? It was kind of robotic. But then once you get in there, then you get to do what you want. Because now he's trusting you, and when you mess up, he's not really going to yell at you. She's not going to yell at you because, you know, they know you messed up and it wasn't something that you do all the time. So the first thing I would do is really evaluate what's going on with me, and then I would figure out what I can do to, you know, make sure that I'm doing everything that he asked me to do, and then I'd butter him up and bring him some stuff. You know, it works. I'm telling you, it works. I still do it at work now. Because when I want to do a program and they don't want me to do the program, I say, okay, well, let me see why he didn't want me to do it. I figure that out, and then I just start, okay, you want a coffee? You know what I mean? Do you like Starbucks? What kind of Starbucks you like? And you know, now it brings those walls down. Now, I mean, again, that's building that trust. It's building that, you know, getting them to know who you are. And especially if you transition into a new coach and they don't necessarily know you, you gotta make sure that you're you're visible to them as much as possible. That's a great question. Yes. Always, always. Are you an athlete? What sport? Women's oh yeah, absolutely. We have a volleyball league that, you know, absolutely. You come on up. And the beautiful thing about volunteering is that people view volunteering differently as they do work. If you get volunteering on your resume, that's something that people care about, because now it's like, now they know you care for people because you're giving up your time. So absolutely, we have several opportunities, even if it's not, you know, with volleyball. I mean, we have a children's program right now that it's for tumbling, and I mean, we've got way more people than way more kids than we have people. So absolutely. Yes.
How do you handle crisis in case like something goes wrong, like one of your habits with your organization?
One of my organizational
Yeah,
questions?
like when you organize an event or you do a program and something goes wrong, how you handle it? Like,
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, so he asked the question. So what happens if you got if you have an event and something goes wrong? You scream first when nobody's listening, but then whenever you're putting on an event, there's things that are going to go wrong. And just like when I played football, and I have a lot of football analogies because that's what I did all my life. We always prepare for adversity because it was going to happen. Somebody wasn't going to show up. Somebody wasn't going to be on time. Somebody wasn't going to bring something they were supposed to bring. So what happened was when we do an event and somebody doesn't, something doesn't go the way that we planned it to go, we adjust and we adapt. I mean, what sports did you play? Soccer. Okay. I don't know any soccer analogies because I don't do soccer well. But I'm going to give you a football analogy. So we're running a toss sweep to the right. Toss sweep, we're going to run to the right. And you probably don't know that because but we're running the ball to the right, and then somebody shows up, we got to go left. We can't just stop and just sit down and cry. We actually got to just improvise when it happens. So when a crisis does occur, what we try to do is really get somebody that knows what is going on in that area and have them kind of handle it, because I'm not, it's kind of like me coaching soccer. Like if your soccer coach says, no, I'm going to Brazil to coach Pele. Is he still alive? Just one Pele? Just one Pele. So, but what I would do is I would get somebody that specializes in that. If my community person, let's just say, is volunteers, and my volunteers don't show up, I actually go to my volunteer person and say, okay, what can we do now? Because obviously I always want a plan B for that if something happens, because something always goes wrong. I mean, you can't call a play and that play gets run perfectly. Somebody's going to go the wrong way. Somebody's going to miss a block. Somebody's going to do something. So with that is, you always want to make sure that you get to that person that's over that area. Delegation is probably the best answer to that. Make sure those persons that are involved in that, they can actually help you with that. That's a great question. Yes. Do I do any training? I had a long conversation about that. When I do trainings, I do it to the point where it is not just training. Like if I was training a guy, it was going to be sports, it was going to be finances, it's going to be something not just what you want. I need you to learn something else. So to answer that question, yes and no, because I don't get a lot of people after I drill them about financial education. After I drill them about what's next, they don't want to train with me all the time, because it's not just about sports for me anymore. Yeah.
So you said like building trust was one of the biggest parts of like building relationships with someone. What if you only have like 5 minutes with a person, but you really want to like make a relationship with them for the future? What would be?
That's a great question. So one of the things that I do is I ask a lot of questions, because if I'm sitting here and I'm doing a lot of talking now, but if I was sitting there talking to you and as I went around, I asked a lot more questions than I did talk because I wanted to know about you. Because the more you talk, the more you think I'm a great guy. Like, oh, he's such a great guy. He's just, and all I'm doing is listening. So to build trust, I think with people as fast as possible is really to get them talking and really to ask questions on, where you from? How's your family? Are you married? Do you have any kids? Just to get them talking, because as you get them talking, now they're looking at you as, oh man, this guy, he really cares about me. He really wants to, he wants to see me win, or he wants to see me do well. So what I would do is ask a lot of questions on situations and about that person to get them to talk. Do you like to travel? Just really getting them to talk. If I get you to talk and you think I'm probably the best conversations in the world because I'm sitting down and just listening to you talk. So that's how I try to build as much value with persons and build trust as fast as possible. Is really get them to talk about themselves. Yeah. I'm always open. I'm always open. That's one thing. I never close my door to anybody. And the beautiful thing is, I have a lot of knowledge. Especially, are you a football player? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not just football players. I know football well, but I'm always open to help. I'm always. And I don't have a car, but I do have a cell phone. You can call that.
All right, well, let's give Avon a Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you out at the career fair tomorrow and our seminar here on Friday. And thanks again. I'm sure Avon will hang around for a couple.